Everything shifts the afternoon the boxes show up. You're 7, standing barefoot on the driveway of a cramped apartment complex, watching a delivery guy stack 3 enormous cartons against your door. For a second, you think Christmas came early. It hasn't. Inside is ring lighting, collapsible tripods, and enough professional-grade makeup to stock a department store counter. You don't know it yet, but your mother just walked out of her job at a dental clinic to chase something new. To you, she's still just mom, except now she's home all day, and the house doesn't smell like dinner anymore. It smells like hot bulbs and hairspray. You walk past her closed door and feel warmth bleeding through the wood, like the room itself is running a fever. Once in a while, you find a loose sequin on the carpet, glinting like a dropped scale. You wonder what kind of work call needs glitter. When she finally comes out, her face is buried under a layer of makeup so heavy it looks sculpted, not applied. The apartment doesn't last. Within half a year, you're in a house with a pool and a kitchen straight out of a catalog. Mom tells you she does social media management, and since you're a kid and she's always on her phone, it checks out. A sign appears on her door, do not disturb, and you learn to play games with the sound off. The house goes quiet, except for a laugh through the wall that's pitched a little too high to be hers. It's a performance. You're just too young to know there's a script. Middle school is where the cracks start letting light in. You're in the back of the bus when an older kid leans over with his phone out, showing you a blurred thumbnail. You recognize the marble countertop before you recognize anything else. It's the one you eat cereal on every morning. He asks if your house is always that spotless. You don't answer. You just watch the window, the engine noise turning into a dull ringing in your ears, because you've just understood that the calls behind that door were never about marketing. That counter stops being a breakfast table. It becomes a stage that strangers have already watched. You think about the crumbs you left there this morning and feel sick. Every tile in the kitchen suddenly feels like it's hiding a lens. The realization doesn't arrive all at once, it creeps in, like a slow rear-end collision. You start noticing how the other parents act at drop-off. The moms cluster and go quiet when your mother waves. The dads either study their shoes or stare a beat too long, adjusting their glasses, tugging their caps down. You start asking to be dropped a block from the gate, telling her you want the walk. She agrees without looking up from her screen. By 14, you've become a decent amateur investigator. One night while she's showering, you find the second Instagram, not the one with your dog and your birthday cake, the one with 2 million followers and a link that leads straight to a paywall. Your heart tries to climb out of your chest. Costumes, stage names, fans paying $5 just to hear their username read aloud. It's a full operation, and you're a partner in it who never signed anything. The money makes the anger complicated. You've got the newest phone before anyone else in your grade. A closet of sneakers your friends would trade limbs for. It feels like hush money for something you didn't even do. You start feeling less like a bystander and more like staff helping haul a velvet couch into the studio room, learning how to angle a light so the wall behind her stays shadow-free. You're basically the technical crew for a production you can never mention at school. The truth finally corners you at a football game. You're in the bleachers next to a girl you like, whose dad happens to be the head coach, a guy who gives speeches about integrity like it's a religion. He walks over to say hi, spots your mom near the concession stand, and freezes. It's not disgust on his face, it's recognition. He looks at you, then at her, then back at you, and the conversation with the girl just quietly dies. You realize your social life has a ceiling, and you just found it. The stadium lights suddenly feel like they're hunting for you specifically, so you fold inward. No more people over, you're afraid they'll spot the work outfits drying in the laundry room. You go from a kid to a roomer at your own school. Grades climb because studying is the only thing left to do with the silence. You watch a new German sub roll into the driveway and do the math on how many subscribers paid for the leather seats. It's a grim kind of accounting, and you're the only one running the numbers. Then comes the grocery store. You're grabbing milk when a man in his 50s walks up to your mother, smelling like stale smoke and nerves. His eyes are locked on her the way you'd stare at a screen, not a person. His hand shakes as he reaches for her arm. He uses her stage name, calls her Lexi, and tells her he's been a top subscriber for 3 years, that they have a real connection. The cold of the milk jug against your side is the only thing that feels solid. You step between them, 15 years old against a man twice your size, and your voice comes out lower than you expected. He backs off. The car ride home is silent, but it's a loaded kind of silence. Mom's crying and checking her phone in the same breath, scanning to see if anyone filmed the encounter. She's worried about the brand. That's the moment you understand the character has completely absorbed the person underneath. She's become an asset that needs managing, not a mother having a bad night. Somehow the pity that follows is worse than the anger ever was. Life keeps moving because it has to. Graduation comes, and she offers to cover any college, no loans, no conditions. It's a golden ticket that feels greasy in your hand. You pick a school 3 states away, somewhere your last name means nothing. You want to exist as someone who isn't that lady's kid. She hugs you goodbye like it's a scene, because it is one she's filming a heartfelt send-off video the whole time. Then, one ordinary night in your dorm, a notification hits, a massive leak from the platform she uses. Real names, real addresses, all dumped online. You call her straight to voicemail. Twitter is already compiling lists, the moms, the teachers, the neighbors living double lives, all outed at once. The floor drops out from under you. This isn't a secret anymore. It's public record. The fallout moves fast. Her comments fill with insults. Trolls dig up your accounts and start tagging you directly. You wipe everything and start hopping between burner profiles just to have a normal conversation online. The money bought comfort, but it also built a different kind of cage. And you're the collateral in a business model built on trading privacy for profit. You survive it by working 3 separate jobs through college, so you never have to touch her money. You want to know the food in your fridge came from your own effort. Your roommates think you're insane for eating instant noodles when your mom's worth millions. They don't understand what it's like to look at a luxury car and see 1,000 lonely faces reflected in the paint. Eventually, you go home for a visit. The house is bigger now, but it feels more like a museum exhibit than a home. Cameras are tucked into nearly every room, even the kitchen for security, she says, though you both know they're for behind-the-scenes footage. She looks worn out under the expensive skincare, and when she asks how you're doing, she's already glancing at a notification before you can answer. You realize you're just a supporting character in her narrative proof she raised a successful son, so you make the call. You tell her you're skipping the summer, found a job in another city, something dull with spreadsheets and a cubicle. She's disappointed, mostly because she had a family reunion shoot planned for July. You walk out, and for the first time, you don't look back. No more pool, no more designer closet, no more gigabit internet. You just want to disappear. Months later, you're on a random street in a city that has no idea who you are, and a woman who resembles her walks past. Your heart stalls for a second before you realize it's a stranger. The relief nearly knocks you over. Being an anonymous guy on a sidewalk is the biggest luxury you've ever owned, but the internet doesn't forget. Every so often, a thread resurfaces her face, an old clip, a meme, and the dread rushes back in. You've trained yourself to keep scrolling, to treat her like a celebrity you used to know rather than the woman who raised you. It's less about cruelty and more about keeping your own identity from being swallowed whole. Eventually, you meet someone, a nurse who doesn't live glued to a screen and talks about her patients with a kind of passion that isn't monetized. You wait 6 months before mentioning your mom, terrified she'll bolt, or worse, ask to see the content. Instead, she just listens, takes your hand, and tells you that you are not your mother's career. Nobody's ever said that to you before.
You are not your mother's
Something heavy
career.
unclips from your chest. Then the phone rings, a number you haven't seen in 2 years. It's her assistant, sounding like she's one sentence from a breakdown. Your mom's in the hospital. Panic hits before the details do. A mental health crisis. Live on stream in front of everyone. The comments are still scrolling. Fans arguing over whether it was real or staged for engagement. Even her worst moment gets turned into content. You go to the hospital. No cameras, no ring lights. Just a tired woman in a thin gown staring at a plain wall for once. She looks at you, and briefly, the performance drops. She doesn't ask about your job or your girlfriend. She just asks if you're okay. You realize she's been treading water for a decade and finally went under. You stay 3 days. For those 3 days, she's simply your mother. The world doesn't pause for that, though. Tabloids run the story with old, blurred photos of you as a kid, blurred, but not enough. The cycle starts spinning again, the curiosity, the judgment, the endless appetite for a peek behind the curtain. As long as she's a name, you're part of the show. You offer her a deal, you'll help her recover, but the accounts go. All of them. She looks at you like you've asked her to amputate something. The brand is the only identity, income, and social life she's got left, rolled into one. She says she'll think about it, and you both know what that really means. At some point, you accept you can't rescue someone who doesn't want out. You fly back to your unglamorous life and your unglamorous job. On her birthday, you send flowers. She posts them with a caption about family being everything. You don't comment, you don't like it. You just shut the phone off and take a walk. Funny thing is, people still assume it's a dream life, the cars, the vacations, the wealth. They don't see how it hollows a person out from the inside, how it turns every childhood memory into something with a price tag attached. You've learned the rarest luxury on earth is a quiet meal with someone who isn't filming it. Now you're 25. You changed your last name. No public accounts, no digital footprint. A ghost in a world obsessed with being seen. Sometimes at a party, someone name drops a famous creator, and you just nod along like you've never heard of her. It's a lie, but a useful one. Then, one evening at the park, you spot a kid, maybe 7, holding a phone steady while his mom dances in front of a fountain. He looks bored, eyes drifting toward dogs in the grass, arms straining to keep the shot level. You see yourself in him instantly the exact moment. A kid quietly turns into camera equipment. Part of you wants to walk over and tell him to run, to tell him the likes will never be worth what he's about to lose. You don't. He has to find his own way out of frame. The same way you did, the do not disturb sign, the second account, the fans who know his house better than he does. Every kid raised in front of a lens eventually has to decide whether to be a person or a character, and that choice almost always comes too late. The sun starts going down, and the park empties out. You find a bench, and just watch the sky shift colors. No filter, no edit, nobody watching. It's the only footage that's ever mattered, the moments nobody thought to sell. Your phone buzzes. An unknown number. Old instincts flare and you almost ignore it, bracing for a troll who dug up your new digits. It's just your mother. A photo of the sunset from her balcony. No caption, no hashtag, no link in the bio. You look at it for a long moment, then slide the phone back into your pocket. No reply. You just sit there in the fading light, finally understanding that the only way to actually win this game is to stop playing it.